Hello and welcome to Simply Budgets. What you're about to see will challenge everything you thought you ever knew about budgets and money, so be prepared to let go and take on board some new ideas. I discovered this stuff when I was in a lot of financial pain and it made so much difference in my life. Now I just love sharing it. So let's get down to business. Before we look at the software, let's look at the number one problem everyone has, and then I'll show you how to solve it. So everyone needs to earn and spend money. We all try to earn as much as we can, but when it comes to spending, there are some real challenges. There are times when we accidentally spend too much and then regret it later on, and there are times when we've held back because we didn't know if it was okay to go shopping at the time or not. We all have to make financial decisions on a regular basis without really knowing at the time if we're making the right decision or not. We just know we will find it in the future, and we hope we get it right. Now, if you knew you had $200 spare and you wanted to purchase something for $200 or less, it would be a really easy decision. But you don't always know if you have spare money, and if you do, you probably don't know how much actually is spare. You know, in less than a minute you can be online looking at your bank balance, but the number you're looking at only tells you how much you have, not how much is spare. So here's what's so amazing about Simply Budgets. It allows you to see into the future, so you know at any given point in time the absolute minimum amount you need to have put aside for bills, so you always know how much is spare to do what you like with. It's like having a crystal ball attached to your bank account. There are just 3 steps. Here's how it works. So step 1 sets up the budget start date and pay cycle. Under financial details, you'll see the name of the budget, start date, pay frequency, and the first day the income comes in. Everything else you see in here doesn't really matter at this stage. We're just having a quick demonstration. So step 2, you enter your income and the bills you'd like to get control of. So this is regular transactions. And you can see I've already entered a couple of incomes in here, Bob and Betty Smith. So I've created 3 lists to help you identify the things that you might want to budget for. Regular expenses, long-term expenses, and savings. So we're just going to have a look at regular expenses for starters, and I've popped a couple of long-term expenses in just to make that clear as well. So regular expenses fall within a cycle of no more than 1 year. Things like electricity, insurance, school fees, motor vehicle registration, mortgages, memberships, and so on. Just so you know, long-term expenses is for things like replacing tyres, batteries, refrigerator, TV, washing machine, and savings is for everything that's left over, so the unpredictable things and the once-in-a-lifetime things. Let's look at regular expenses. So I've included a large list that you can choose from, and you just go in here and enter the amounts that you need when the bill is due. So here I've got $220 for an automobile service, when it's due to happen next, and how often it needs to happen. I've already created an imaginary couple called Bob and Betty Smith, and I've filled in a bunch of regular expenses. Let's have a look at what I've got. So that's the list that I've already entered in. So let's save and exit and have a look and see how this works. Step 3, view budget. Now we've just been looking at a list of regular expenses, so let's go to the regular planner and make a plan. The screen is divided into 4 areas. You've got the graph, you've got the middle section where we do the planning. At the bottom you've got the register that shows all of the transactions, so all of those expenses that I had on the list, and here are the bank balances that will occur during the next 12 months based on the numbers that I'm using in the middle here. So these numbers are driving the yellow part of the graph. Over on the right hand side we've got a summary of how much is coming in and going out, and under the details you can see detail of the expenses, details of the income, and how much is left over. And you'll see at the moment that we've got none left over because we haven't actually allocated the income yet. So let's do that now. You can see that the ideal budget is the blue line, and it's the perfect way to pay these expenses during the next year. And on the worst day of the year, it just comes to a $100 balance, which is something that I set previously before we started this demonstration. You can change that number. Now, I've got $1,600, which is the total of Bob's income, and I've got $800, which is the total of Betty's income going into this budget, which is why mine ends up at about $20,000 when the ideal budget ends up at about $2,000 to $2,500. So what's the difference? Well, I've got all of Bob's income going in here, so that means money's being tied up in the bills account and there's nothing left over to pay for groceries and fuel and stuff like that in a week-to-week cycle. So let's get rid of the surplus and make it $880.77. Just recalculate. So now I've got the ideal regular plan, which is much more visible, and my plan, which is identical, except that it starts at about $2,500 lower. How do I know that? Well, the ideal plan starts with $2,320 in the bank. Now, this is the amazing thing about Simply Budgets. It's able to find the worst day of the year and rewind back from that point to the start and say, this is where you need to be today, tomorrow, every day for the next year, so that we will hit rock bottom on a number that's a positive and not a disaster like this one. And then we'll work our way back to the end of the year ready to start again in exactly the same place that we started. So I've got some work to do. And the first thing I need to do is check my bank balance and see how much I can put in as my opening balance. Now, just for sake of argument, let's put in that I've got $1,530. So I'll recalculate. So for the first time in my life, I actually know how much money I need to have in the bank. Now, the fact that I'm short by about $800 is not because I'm stupid. It's because I just never knew where I needed to be. And this is the problem most people have. They've got money in the bank, but they don't know how much is enough or how much is too much. This reveals what you need to know. So we've got 1,530. We should have had 2,320. We've got a problem that we need to solve. However, we do have time to solve it because it's not until this point here that the first red numbers begin to appear in our budget plan. Fortunately, we can see that we need to increase the deposit with some of this surplus income that we've got over here. And so instead of 880, I'm going to bump this up to say, look, I round it up to 950 and recalculate. So now I've got a plan that allows me to start with less in the bank than I was supposed to have, but over a period of about 5 months, I get to this point here, and the ideal graph and my graph actually meet at the same point. And that's the point where I know I can stop putting in the extra $70 each pay and back it down to the $880. So I will push this budget forward to a new start date, and I'll reduce the deposit down to $880, and I will then have the $70 surplus to go back and do something else with that. So here is a plan that I can follow. All I need to do is now get this money away from my week-to-week stuff so I can do the groceries and the fuel and the other everyday expenses and not have to worry about these big bills coming in. So the way we do that is simply to have 2 bank accounts and a protected zone for the bills money that we've just been budgeting for. So the bills account, the one we just looked at, we know exactly how much money needs to go in there. There's $950 of Bob's income and there's $800 of Betty's income. The rest of Bob's income is going into the everyday account, and that's the groceries and fuel and other bits and pieces. And that just has to last from week to week because there are no big bills to be paid out of that. They all come from the bills account. How good would that be? And the reason this will work is because you actually have a plan for the bills account where you can check from day to day, week to week. Any day you like, you can say, what's the date today? What's my target? You can jump on the internet and check that balance and see whether you're okay or not. That makes all the difference. Over on the right hand side, you can see that we've got regular expenses, long-term expenses. We haven't got any savings, total of all the expenses, total of all the income. We've got a surplus here, $687, which ideally would be available to us. However, there's a little bit less available because my use of income, I've had to put some surplus in to make this catch-up work. Let's have a quick look at the long-term planner. I've already put in the fridges and washing machines and a few items. And here we've got a blue line, which is the ideal 10-year plan to pay for replacing fridge, washing machine, tyres and batteries. But I haven't got anything in here yet. So let's put in, I've got no money left to use as the opening balance. So let's put in the $35.65 as the deposit and recalculate. And now I've got a plan that allows me to replace the tyres, the battery, the tyres, the refrigerator, and so on. As we go through a 10-year cycle of replacing these things, money will be available when it's needed. And on the worst day of the decade, this point over here, I'm going to hit an 85-cent balance. So I'm never going to have these things need replacing and not have the money available. So we've done a regular plan, we've done a long-term plan. We haven't put any savings in here, but it's a very simple thing to do, and it's not what we're going to do right now. Budget details allows you to bring regular and long-term and savings all together in that one bank account, and the sum of this plus this plus this gives us how much should be in that account on that particular day. And you've got those targets for the whole year. So you don't come to the computer every day to have a look at your balances. You simply print out a report, hang it on the fridge door, and that then becomes your checkpoint every week as you go along. So let's have a very quick look at the budget calendars. I'll just do 3 months. And so here's one of the printouts you can see, and this shows you everything that you've got scheduled in for every day, how much is coming in, how much is going out, what has to be paid, and at the end of the day, the number beside the date is the target. If you can hit that balance on that day, you know that all those bills are going to get paid out of that bills account, and your week-to-week money doesn't have to ever worry about any big bills to be paid from there. So there's the first month, there's the second month, there's the third month. And it's just a case of print it out, hang it on the fridge door, and tick them off as they occur. And maybe once a week, just check to see that you're close to the target to know that everything is working okay. How simple is that? Now, previously, you may have tried to set up a budget account, but it always failed because you never had the targets to check against to see that it was working. With Simply Budgets, it allows you to plan the future and use as little of your income as possible to make the plan work, and then plot the future out and follow the plan. It's just like having a roadmap for your money. I hope to see you as one of my customers soon. Hopefully this demonstration has really lit up your eyes and allowed you to see what's possible for you and your finances. I'm David Wright. Talk to you again soon. Bye for now.